They called her the blind shadow, the girl who never saw, never fought back, even when the pack destroyed her. Shadowmere Pack territory, present day. Inside the Great Hole, drunk wolves crowd around as Ryan Howell auctions his own daughter to settle debts. Melissa, 21 but aged by abuse, stands in torn clothes, white eyes staring at nothing. Her father screams that she's blind, broken, perfect for wolves who want no witnesses. Marcus Vex, a scarred enforcer known for cruelty, offers scraps. The deal is done. Then the doors explode inward. Alpha King Chris fills the entrance, 6 feet 4 inches of dominant power, golden eyes blazing, an aura that makes alphas submit. He invokes ancient rite, throws down a bride price worth a territory. She's mine. He guides Melissa into moonlight, and as he secures her against his chest, he leans close and whispers 6 words that shatter everything. I know you can see. Melissa's world stops. For 3 years since watching her father beat her mother to death, she's hidden behind blindness, her wolf's gift of aura reading concealed as disability. No one has ever seen through it. Until this king. And now her survival depends on a stranger who somehow knows her deepest secret. Chapter 1. The journey stretched endlessly through territories Melissa had only heard whispered about in fearful tones. 2 days on horseback, her body pressed against the Alpha King's back, feeling the raw power coiled beneath his skin. Every mile away from Shadowmere should have felt like freedom, but Melissa's instincts screamed that she'd traded one cage for another. Her wolf stirred deep inside, a sensation she'd suffocated for 3 years. Mate, it whispered with desperate longing. Mate. Claim. Home. Melissa crushed the hope viciously. She'd learned that lesson already. Alphas didn't truly mate with broken she-wolves. They used them, discarded them, destroyed them. But why had he claimed her? The question burned through her mind as they rode. Alpha King Chris could have any she-wolf in the territories. Powerful, beautiful, whole. Why pay a fortune for damaged goods? What did he want from her? The sun was setting when they stopped at a stone safehouse hidden in dense forest. Chris dismounted in one fluid motion, then reached up for Melissa. His hands circled her waist, and the contact sent electricity racing through her veins. Her wolf surged again, but she forced her white eyes to remain unfocused, her body limp and helpless. Inside, the safe house was sparse but secure. 1 room, 1 bed, weapons lining the walls. Melissa's heart hammered as Chris moved to the hearth, starting a fire with practiced efficiency. Eat. He handed her dried meat and bread without ceremony. Melissa fumbled with the food, playing her role. But her other senses were hyper-alert, tracking his movements, reading the golden shimmer of his aura that pulsed with barely contained power. Then he spoke, his back still turned, voice casual as death. When that enforcer moved toward you in the Great Hall, your pupils dilated. Fear triggers wolf instincts, even when you're pretending to be blind. The bread turned to ash in Melissa's mouth. Her blood ran ice cold. She said nothing. Couldn't. Every survival instinct she'd honed over 3 years screamed at her to maintain the facade, to never break character, to, I don't care why you pretend. Chris turned slowly, and his golden eyes locked onto her white ones with an intensity that stripped her bare. But in my territory, if you can't use every advantage, you die. And you're not dying, Melissa. Not when you're carrying something people have killed for. Her hands trembled, betraying her. I don't. The journal. His voice cut like a silver blade through her denial. Your mother's journal. The one that went missing the night Ryan Howell beat her to death. The one with evidence of who ordered my father's assassination. The world tilted. Melissa's knees weakened, and she gripped the table to stay upright. How could he possibly know? She'd been so careful, so quiet, so invisible. Her hand moved to her hidden pocket almost involuntarily. The small leather book had been pressed against her heart for 3 years, blood-stained, filled with her mother's careful handwriting documenting names, dates, payments, murders. The evidence that had gotten her mother killed. She pulled it out with shaking fingers. Chris's eyes flashed pure gold, his wolf rising to the surface. He took the journal with reverent fury, flipping through pages, his jaw tightening with each entry. When he reached the page marked Northern Alpha King, payment upon death, his claws extended, tearing into the leather cover. The silence stretched like a blade between them. Then Chris looked up, and Melissa saw something in his face that terrified her more than violence ever could. Purpose. Alliance. War. Then we're not running, he said, voice rough with barely leashed rage. We're going to war. And Melissa realized with creeping certainty that the Alpha King hadn't claimed her for her body or her submission. He'd claimed her for the one thing more valuable than gold in the werewolf territories. The truth that could bring kingdoms to their knees. Chapter 2. The royal fortress rose from mountain stone like a predator's fang. Ancient, impenetrable, beautiful in its savage architecture. Melissa had expected luxury befitting a king. Instead, Chris led her to a Spartan room with a single bed and a view of the training grounds below. Dawn comes early, was all he said before leaving her alone. She didn't sleep. How could she, when everything she'd known was crumbling? Dawn arrived with brutal efficiency. Chris dragged her from bed before sunrise, shoving training clothes at her without ceremony. Get dressed. We start now. He didn't treat her like a rescued damsel or even a claimed mate. He treated her like a weapon that needed sharpening. The physical conditioning was merciless. Running until her lungs burned and her legs screamed for mercy. Combat drills that left bruises blooming across her skin. Wolf-shifting exercises though she'd never fully transformed. Her wolf too caged, too afraid to emerge. Your wolf is caged because you caged yourself, Chris snarled on the 5th day when she collapsed, trembling, halfway through a shift. Break free or stay broken. Your choice. Melissa wanted to hate him for his cruelty. But she could read his aura, blazing gold threaded with silver concern. He wasn't breaking her. He was reforging her. 3 weeks into training, Chris changed tactics. That evening, he placed her mother's journal between them by the fire. Read it. All of it. Out loud. Melissa's hands shook as she opened the blood-stained leather. Her mother's handwriting blurred through tears she refused to shed. Names. Dates. Bribes. Murders. The Shadow Council. Corrupt alphas from 7 territories conspiring to reshape the werewolf world through assassination and fear. When she reached the entry marked Northern Alpha King, $100K payment upon confirmed death, Chris's claws extended involuntarily, tearing deep gouges into the oak chair arm. Read it again. His voice was barely controlled rage. Melissa obeyed, voice steadier now. The conspiracy was detailed with her mother's meticulous accounting. His father assassinated during a treaty meeting, death blamed on rogues, the Northern Territories deliberately destabilized for eventual takeover by the Shadow Council. Your mother uncovered this? each word ground out like gravel. She was pack accountant. She saw the money trails. Melissa's voice shook with remembered horror. My father killed her the night she showed me this journal. Told me she'd betrayed the pack. But I saw his aura, black with lies and fear. They promised him beta rank when the territories fell. He murdered her for a promotion. The fire crackled between them. When Chris's eyes met hers, Melissa saw no pity, only recognition. Two people bound by blood-soaked justice. This wasn't rescue. This was alliance forged in shared trauma and rage. Then we train harder, Chris said quietly. Because they're coming for you. And when they do, you're going to be ready. But something else was happening beneath the surface of combat drills and conspiracy planning. The mate bond pulled stronger each day, an invisible thread tightening between them. When Chris touched her during training, adjusting her stance, catching her when she fell, Melissa's wolf surged with desperate wanting. When she read auras during meditation, his burned brighter than anyone's, gold and silver intertwined, calling to something deep in her soul that terrified her. She tried to ignore it. Tried to focus only on survival. Then one evening during meditation, her psychic ability exploded. Melissa gasped as the world transformed into cascading colored light. Every wolf in the fortress suddenly visible as living auras, truth blazing white, lies festering black, loyalty burning steady blue, betrayal oozing sickly green. Emotions crashed over her in overwhelming waves. Fear, hope, desire, rage, all of it flooding her senses until she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't. Strong arms caught her as she collapsed. Chris's scent surrounded her, pine and thunder and something uniquely him. Breathe, Melissa. Just breathe. Too much, she gasped. I can see everything, feel everything, it's... You're not broken. His voice was fierce, golden eyes blazing as he cradled her against his chest. You're awakening. Your wolf, your gifts, they're finally breaking free. For the first time in 3 years, pressed against an alpha king's heart while her world exploded into truth and light, Melissa believed him. And her wolf whispered again, mate. This time, she didn't crush the hope. Chapter 3. The blood moon rose like a wound in the sky, painting the fortress in shades of crimson and shadow. Melissa felt it in her bones, a primal pull that made her wolf pace restlessly beneath her skin. Ancient pack law dictated that all wolves were vulnerable during the moon's peak. Instincts overrode reason. Mate bonds intensified to unbearable levels. Defenses weakened. She found Chris on the battlements, his golden eyes reflecting red in the moonlight. Before she could speak, pain lanced through her skull. The auras she'd been learning to control suddenly screamed warnings. Something's wrong. Her voice cut through the night. Chris tensed immediately, every muscle coiled for violence. Your gift. The auras. They're changing. Shifting. Melissa gasped as the vision sharpened. Someone inside the fortress. She grabbed his arm, white eyes blazing silver. Traitor. There's a traitor in your guard. They didn't have time to identify who. The explosion ripped through the east wing at midnight. Assassins poured through the breach like shadows given form. Shadow Council enforcers moving with lethal precision through corridors that Melissa's abilities suddenly mapped in her mind. She saw their auras like crimson stains against the darkness, hatred and killing intent burning through the stone walls. East Corridor, 3 targets. Her voice was steady now, certain. No trace of the helpless blind girl remaining. West stairwell, 2 more. They're converging on the armory. Chris's eyes flashed with pride and something deeper that made her wolf howl. Stay behind me. No. Melissa's wolf finally surged free after 3 years of suffocation. Partial shift, claws extending, fangs sharpening, strength flooding her limbs that she'd never before accessed. We fight together. The battle was brutal and beautiful. Melissa moved on pure instinct, her psychic sense guiding her past blades she couldn't physically see. She read attack patterns in the shifts of crimson auras, dodged before strikes landed, struck at vulnerabilities her gift revealed like glowing targets. When an assassin got past Chris's defense, blade aimed at his exposed back, Melissa's claws tore through the attacker's throat without hesitation. Blood sprayed hot across her face. Chris reached her in 2 strides, golden eyes wild with protective fury and unmistakable desire. You're incredible. The mate bond snapped fully into place between them, a soul-deep connection that blazed brighter than any aura she'd ever seen. They both felt it. The understanding that together they were exponentially stronger than apart. That this bond wasn't weakness. It was devastating power. But there was no time for romance or revelation. The head assassin revealed himself from the shadows, dragging a struggling guard. Marcus Vex, scarred, vicious, wearing the Shadow Council's mark on his throat. The journal, or he dies. Vex's blade pressed against the guard's jugular. Melissa's aura reading caught the lie immediately. The guard's life force already fading, poisoned, minutes from death regardless. He's already dead. You poisoned him before you even made your demand. Vex snarled, shoving the dying guard aside. Clever little blind bitch. But clever won't save. Chris's transformation was explosive. His wolf form erupted in a surge of golden power, buffalo-sized, terrifying, magnificent. He tore through Marcus Vex with savage efficiency, claws and fangs ending the assassin's threat in seconds of brutal violence. When the blood cleared and Chris shifted back to human form, they found the evidence clutched in Vex's dead hand. A communication crystal still glowing with recent messages to the Shadow Council. Melissa read them, her blood running cold. They know I have the journal. They know about my abilities. And they're gathering their full force. Chris stood blood-spattered and magnificent in the moonlight, every inch the Alpha King. We can't hide anymore. We take the fight to them. Melissa nodded, finally understanding her purpose in this war. She wasn't the helpless victim to be protected. She was the weapon they'd never see coming. I'm the bait, she said quietly. And I'm the witness who'll expose them all. Chris's smile was fierce and proud. Then let's destroy them. Chapter 4. Stonehaven rose from neutral territory like a monument to ancient power, carved from white stone that had witnessed 1,000 years of werewolf law. The Grand Council met here under sacred truce. No blood spilled on hallowed ground, or face execution by the elders themselves. Melissa entered on Chris's arm, every inch the blind, timid mate. Her white eyes remained unfocused, steps deliberately uncertain, body clinging to him for guidance as if she'd shatter without his support. The perfect act of helpless dependency. The council chamber reeked of old power and older corruption. Alpha Silas Vex, Marcus's father, scarred and cruel, spotted her immediately. His lip curled with contempt. The blind girl. How touching that you found a use for damaged goods, my king. Though I suppose even broken she-wolves have their purposes. Chris's restraint was legendary. His hand tightened fractionally on Melissa's waist, the only sign of his rage. My Luna serves her purpose admirably. Melissa kept her eyes downcast, trembling slightly. But behind the facade, her gift blazed to life. She read the auras around the massive oak council table, and what she saw made her wolf snarl with fury. Corruption blazed like infected wounds through 7 of the gathered alphas. Silas Vex, his aura festering black-green with malice. Alpha Damian Cross, crimson with bloodlust and greed. And there, her stomach twisted, Beta Ryan Howell, her father, reinstated to his former rank as reward for murdering his mate and keeping silent. His aura was the worst, rotting gray shot through with cowardly yellow. They thought themselves untouchable, protected by sacred law and political power. Then Chris stood, and the chamber fell silent. I invoke the right of truth witness. His voice rang with absolute authority. My Luna will testify before the Council of Elders. Gasps rippled through the assembly. The 3 ancient elders, wolves so old they'd forgotten their original names, leaned forward with sudden interest. Truth witnesses were legendary, rare as phoenix feathers. Wolves with psychic abilities so pure they couldn't lie under elder magic. Melissa stepped forward, shedding her blind act like a discarded cloak. Her white eyes blazed with silver light that illuminated the chamber. I see you, she said, voice clear and strong. All of you. Your auras reveal everything you've done. Every life you've taken. Every betrayal you've committed. She named them one by one. Silas Vex, who ordered the assassination of the Northern Alpha King. Damian Cross, who poisoned rivals and blamed rogues. Ryan Howell, who murdered his own mate to protect the conspiracy. 7 names. 7 corrupted souls laid bare. The elders extended their ancient magic, silver light that filled the chamber with power older than memory. And Melissa's gift amplified it, her psychic abilities weaving with elder magic to create something unprecedented. The conspirators' own memories projected into the air like ghostly films. The council watched in horror as the assassination played out in vivid detail. Bribes exchanging hands. Murders committed in shadow. The entire conspiracy exposed in undeniable truth. Ryan Howell lunged from his seat with a snarl of rage. You little. Chris's hand closed around his throat, lifting the beta off his feet. Touch her and die. The elders rose as one, their judgment absolute. Death to the conspirators. Death to those who betrayed sacred law. But the Shadow Council didn't accept defeat gracefully. Silas Vex shifted first, a massive gray wolf erupting in the center of the chamber, breaking the most sacred law of all. The others followed, 7 wolves where 7 men had stood, their eyes blazing with desperate fury. They would kill everyone in this chamber before accepting justice. The battle that erupted was catastrophic. Chris shifted instantly, his golden wolf meeting Silas's charge. Melissa's partial shift blazed through her as assassins broke through the doors. More conspirators, more traitors, turning Stonehaven into a war zone. Her gift showed her everything. Attack patterns, weaknesses, the killing blow before it landed. Chapter 5. They fled Stonehaven as it burned behind them, the elders' justice consuming conspirators in silver fire. But 3 Shadow Council members escaped into the night, and they wouldn't stop until Melissa was dead and the journal destroyed. The forbidden territories stretched before them like a nightmare-made landscape. Lands so wild even werewolves feared to tread. Ancient magic twisted through gnarled trees, rogue packs ruled without law, and predators hunted wolves with savage efficiency. Melissa rode on Chris's back, his massive golden wolf form eating up miles with supernatural speed. But it wasn't blind flight. Her gift blazed brighter than ever, mapping dangers before they manifested. Left, death trap. She yanked his fur as her aura sight revealed magical snares hidden in the earth. Right, safe passage through the ravine. Chris followed her guidance without hesitation. The mate bond pulsed between them, allowing wordless communication that kept them alive when seconds mattered. Behind them, the pursuit was relentless. Ryan Howell led the hired rogues, desperate and dangerous. Melissa could sense his aura even miles back, putrid yellow fear mixed with black hatred. He'd lost everything. His rank, his conspirators, his future. The only thing left was destroying the daughter who'd exposed him. Days blurred into exhausted running. They stopped only briefly, Chris hunting while Melissa kept watch, her psychic senses spread like a net around their temporary camps. At night, pressed against her mate's warm fur, the bond between them intensified. Chris's wolf was fiercely protective, possessive in ways that made Melissa's heart ache. And her abilities grew stronger with each passing hour, as if finally embracing her power after years of suppression had unlocked something limitless inside her. On the 5th day, they reached the edge. A cliff face overlooking an abyss so deep the bottom disappeared into eternal darkness. Nowhere left to run. Nowhere left to hide. Ryan Howell emerged from the trees with a dozen rogues at his back, all scarred and vicious, paid in promises of territory and power. His human form was haggard, eyes wild with desperation. "You should have stayed blind and silent," he snarled at Melissa, spittle flying from his lips. "Should have let me sell you to Marcus Vex like I planned. Would have been so much easier than this." Melissa slid from Chris's back as he shifted to human form beside her. Her white eyes blazed with silver fire that cut through the gathering dusk. "I was never blind, father." Her voice rang with power she'd never allowed herself before. "And I'm done being silent." Ryan lunged with a roar of rage. The battle was savage and primal. Chris tore through rogues with the devastating fury of an alpha king defending his true mate. Claws ripping through flesh, fangs crushing bone, golden eyes blazing with protective wrath. Melissa fought beside him, her partial shift complete now, moving with deadly grace. Her psychic abilities confused enemies, showing them false images, revealing their moves before they made them. But Ryan was hers. He came for her throat with a wolf's killing instinct, all pretense of fatherhood burned away. Melissa saw his attack pattern in the corruption of his aura. Predictable, desperate, fueled by fear rather than skill. She didn't run. Didn't dodge. She let him come, his momentum carrying him forward in a killing lunge. Then at the last possible second, she sidestepped and used his own force against him. Hands gripping his arm, pivoting, throwing him past her with strength her wolf had finally granted. Ryan Howell screamed as he sailed over the cliff's edge. The sound echoed through the abyss, growing fainter and fainter until silence swallowed it whole. Melissa stood at the precipice, breathing hard, watching the darkness consume the man who'd murdered her mother and tried to destroy her. The remaining rogues took one look at the Alpha King and his blazing Luna, then fled into the forbidden territories without a backward glance. The hunt was over. Chris pulled Melissa into his arms, both of them blood-spattered and magnificent. "It's done." Chapter 6. They returned to Stonehaven battered, blood-stained, and victorious. The white stone fortress had been cleansed with silver fire. The conspirators who hadn't fled were ash now, their corruption purged by elder justice. The Shadow Council that had poisoned werewolf politics for decades was finally, truly destroyed. The Council of Elders waited in the great chamber, ancient beyond measure, their eyes holding the weight of centuries. Melissa stood before them with Chris at her side, no longer playing blind or helpless. Her white eyes met theirs without flinching. They examined her mother's journal with reverent care, reading every entry, every piece of evidence meticulously documented. They listened to Melissa's testimony, felt the truth resonating through her words with the unmistakable ring of her gift. They reviewed the memories her abilities had projected, undeniable proof of conspiracy and murder. Then the eldest rose, her voice echoing through the chamber with the authority of ancient law. Truth witnesses shall be honored, not hidden. She-wolves with gifts shall be protected, not discarded as broken. Her gaze swept across the assembled alphas. And any wolf, alpha, beta, or omega, who sells their daughters shall face death. This is our judgment. This is our new law. The words reverberated through the werewolf world like thunder. Melissa's suffering, her mother's murder, the years of abuse and silence, all of it had changed history. New laws. New protections. The she-wolves who came after her would never face what she had endured. But there was one final ceremony. The Lunar Queen coronation was held under the full moon. Every pack in the Northern Territories gathered as witnesses. Melissa stood in ceremonial robes of silver and white, her heart pounding as Chris approached carrying the crown that had belonged to his mother, his grandmother, queens stretching back through generations. He stopped before her, and his golden eyes held emotion she'd never expected to see from an Alpha King. Vulnerability, hope, love so fierce it stole her breath. "Will you stand beside me?" His voice carried across the assembled packs, strong but tender. Not as subject, but as partner? Not as rescued, but as equal? Not as claimed property, but as chosen mate? Melissa's answer rang clear, her voice strong and sure, carrying the power of a she-wolf who'd finally found herself. "I don't want freedom from you, Chris. I want freedom with you. I choose you. I choose us. I choose this." The mate bond completed fully in that moment, a blazing connection that exploded between them like silver lightning, visible to every wolf present. It illuminated the night, proof that this was no political arrangement but a true mate bond, fated and fierce and unbreakable. Chris placed the crown on her head, his hands gentle despite their strength. "My Luna. My queen. My mate." Melissa stood before the territories transformed, no longer the blind shadow of Shadowmere, but the seeing queen of the north. Truth witness. The she-wolf who'd brought justice when everyone thought her broken. The packs howled their acceptance, the sound rising to the moon like a promise that the world had changed. And as Chris pulled her into his arms, his lips claiming hers in a kiss that sealed their bond before all witnesses, Melissa finally understood the truth her gift had been trying to show her all along. She was never meant to be silent. She was meant to be heard. The coronation celebration would last for days, but Chris pulled Melissa away from the crowds as the moon reached its peak. They stood on the battlements of Stonehaven, the territories spread before them like a promise. "Do you regret it?" he asked quietly, arms wrapped around her from behind. "The price you paid to get here?" Melissa leaned into her mate's warmth, her psychic sense reading the love in his aura. Pure gold and silver, intertwined forever, stronger together than either could ever be apart. She thought of her mother, of the journal, of the years of silence and suffering. She thought of the new laws that would protect countless she-wolves from the fate she'd endured. "No," she whispered, turning in his arms to face him. "Every scar was worth it. Because it led me here. To you. To us. To this." Chapter 7. 5 years passed like the turning of seasons, each one bringing deeper peace to the northern territories than the last. The royal fortress carved into mountain stone had become more than a seat of power. It was a sanctuary, a training ground, a beacon of hope for she-wolves across all territories who'd been told their gifts made them broken. Melissa stood on the balcony overlooking lands that now thrived under laws she'd helped forge. Her white eyes glowed with controlled silver light as she watched the evening training session below. Young she-wolves sparred with the confidence of warriors, not the cowering fear of property. Truth witnesses meditated openly in the courtyard, developing gifts that were now honored instead of hidden. Ryan Howell's name had been erased from all pack records, unmated, unmourned, forgotten as if he'd never existed. The conspiracy he'd served was dust. The corruption he'd enabled was purged. And Melissa had become legend. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, and she melted into Chris's warmth without hesitation. Their mate bond pulsed between them. 5 years hadn't dimmed it. If anything, it burned brighter, deeper, a connection that had transformed both of them into something greater than either could be alone. "Do you ever regret it?" Chris murmured against her hair, his voice carrying the intimacy of mates who'd shared everything: battles, nightmares, healing, love. "Giving up the quiet life you could have had?" Melissa turned in his arms, and though her physical eyes remained clouded white, her psychic sense read every detail of him. His aura blazed gold and silver, intertwined so thoroughly with hers that she couldn't tell where his essence ended and hers began. She didn't need physical sight to see the truth of him, the fierce protector, the devoted mate, the king who'd chosen partnership over domination. "I was never meant for quiet," she said, smiling with the confidence of a queen who'd earned her crown through fire and blood. "I was meant for this. For you. For us. For them." She gestured to the training grounds below, where a young she-wolf with amber eyes was practicing the combat techniques Melissa herself had developed. The girl had been sold by her father 6 months ago. Now she was a warrior in training, protected by laws that made such sales punishable by death. Far below, the pack gathered for the evening run. Wolves of all ranks moved together, not in rigid hierarchy, but in community. Young she-wolves trained beside males as equals. Truth witnesses studied their gifts without shame, their abilities recognized as the blessings they were. The world Melissa and Chris had fought for wasn't perfect. But it was better. Fairer. Kinder to those who'd once had no voice. The blind shadow of Shadowmere had become the seeing queen of the north. The isolated, broken king had become a devoted mate who ruled through partnership. And together they'd built something the Shadow Council's corruption could never touch. A kingdom forged in truth, tempered by justice, and sealed by a mate bond that had conquered every darkness. Melissa rose on her toes to kiss her mate as the sun set over their territories, painting the sky in gold and silver, the colors of their bond. "Tell me," Chris whispered against her lips, golden eyes dancing with mischief and heat. "What does your gift see in our future, my queen?" Melissa's psychic sense flared, showing her glimpses of what was to come. Tiny heartbeats, silver eyes like hers mixed with gold like his, the next generation of truth witnesses who would carry their legacy forward. She smiled, and the expression held secrets and promises and infinite love. "I see everything," she whispered back. And it's more beautiful than I ever dreamed. Thanks for watching till the end. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. See you in the next video.